Hey there, lovely people! Welcome back to another story study. I'm Sammy, and I'm a writer who likes to learn about writing through reading and share what I learn with you. Today I'm talking about an indie published book called My Favorite Color Is You, and this is by a very new author. Full transparency, the author reached out to me and sent me an ARC copy and asked me for an honest review. And I am doing everything fully in my power because I'm very proud of her for having written the whole book. I am. And I think a lot of other writers who are at a similar stage to her can learn a lot from this video. I don't know that I would say that she should watch this video because I'm going to say a lot of things that I believe are true, and I'm going to say them in the nicest way possible, but there's a lot to learn. There's a lot of things that could be improved about this story, and I genuinely don't think that if I wrote this book and I watched this video back, that I would feel comfortable watching this video back. Whether she wants to watch this video or not, I think that there's a lot that we can learn from this, and I think that there is a lot that she could potentially learn before releasing her next book. I would probably put like a little bit of distance between this book coming out and watching this video so you can like have a little bit more of that breath between it. But as it stands, I definitely think other writers can learn something from this too, so let's get into it. Here's a very, very brief summary. This is a YA love story following a girl who wants to be an artist and her broody neighbor. I could try and ham up this summary a little bit more, but there's not really enough beef to the story aside from that at this point. So some of my thoughts, some of the positive things that I noted, there is a lot of effort to make the characters' home lives feel genuine. She did a lot of work in the world building on that front. There's a lot of genuine home establishments. The feelings of being in this person's home are clear for both the main character and the neighbor. The main character is written in a way that makes it feel very, very consistent, which is great to help that character feel more grounded in a situation that may not have held them to the ground if it weren't for that consistency between who they are in their home life and who they are out in the world. Now, for some improvements, again, I'm gonna do the very best I can to be like gentle and affirming with these things because it's a lot to write a book and put it out there for other people to see. It takes a lot of guts, and I don't have that yet. So I'm very proud that this book has come out, but I think the next time that it goes through, there is some room for growth. So to start off, your first scene, you kind of get thrown in, and there's a lot that's happening, and there's not really enough that gives you something to grab onto, that you can't like center yourself in this event, and there needs to be something more tangible. There's a lot going on, and if there were a little bit more to grasp, it would probably be a very interesting starting point. But at this point, it is just, there's a birthday party. The characters have recently moved. Their mom and aunts are always fighting in the kitchen, and everyone who is at the party needs to be wearing wings because that's what the birthday person wants, and there are new neighbors, and there's just so many things happening, and I don't know where to focus my attention. And like, you watching will know you should focus your attention on the fact that there are new neighbors because now you know it's a love story between neighbors. I didn't know that going in. I was just like, who, what? And the way that that introductory setting is created, it's practically impossible to know what is happening in the moment that we are currently in and what is a memory, what is just exposition that we needed to know because the story's starting, that the characters already knew prior to this moment, but we're starting in this particular moment, so we need to have this background. Why did we need to have the background in that moment, and is there a way to separate it from like, here we are at this birthday party, to, oh yeah, mom and my aunt are fighting again, they're always fighting, transition. There wasn't a clear transition from like, this is in the now, and this is before, which gives it that like, I'm very confused and I don't feel stable in this situation at the very beginning. I think that having that transition between like things that have happened, memories, and the present moment is something that happens a lot in books. It's something that is super common, and a great way to give exposition is like, this is a memory that the character is having that's been triggered by this event that's going on. I don't think that having it in the very first scene as a way of giving exposition is the best use of that. And I think that that has to do with part of the character being like, she overthinks. However, I think you can introduce that in a different way that gives the readers more information instead of just giving the readers that she's overthinking in a way that is also supposed to give them exposition. Okay, moving on from that opening scene. That's how you start the story. That's how I wanted to start my improvements, is like, that needs to be more cohesive and have more information that is clearly connected. The next thing is that the dialogue feels really grammatically correct. Not necessarily the worst thing, but when all of your characters are all very grammatically correct with how they talk, you don't have the individual voices that real life have. People talk in different ways. People use their words differently. People have different rhythms in their speech. That is something that you should take into consideration when you are writing dialogue, because your descriptions, your scene settings, all of that should be really consistent, but your dialogue should be attributed to the person who is speaking in a way that they are speaking. So because of that grammatical correctness, there is this stiffness to all of your characters in their dialogue. And then there's also the aspect of sometimes your characters will just open up. They'll just say what they're feeling after all of their other like situations. They're trying to be guarded. Their physical actions are saying we're being guarded. And then their language is, well, I'm just gonna word vomit, like all of these things in the most grammatically correct way possible. You're gonna fully understand what I'm saying because I'm basically writing an essay about my feelings, and that just doesn't connect with their actions. So I think taking in consideration, how do people really talk? How do people hide what they're feeling? When people are physically trying to keep a distance, how does that affect what they say? And there were some moments where it wasn't grammatically correct, and not in like a this is how people talk kind of way, but in a I don't really know what we're trying to say here. And I think having somebody who is a stronger writer than you going through and proofreading it and checking it and making sure that everything is really, really detailed, really close look on it. A lot of people will pay somebody to go through and edit their book, have the skill to do so. But if that's not something you feel like you can invest in right now, definitely have somebody who you feel is more advanced than you in writing go through it. Get like a beta reader, an editor, friends, family, whoever you can to read through your work and see if they can catch anything that just feels off. And make sure that they're gonna be honest people, because honest people who aren't there to protect your feelings, like, oh yeah, you're doing so great, this is perfect, this is amazing. You don't want that. You want that, right? You want people to say that it's amazing, you did a really great job, but you want them to be genuine about it. You don't want them to say, oh yeah, you did a great job, and then you go out and you send your book to me and then I say, you might not want to watch this video. You want people who are going to be honest, but in a way that they are going to protect your feelings without patronizing you when they're going through this. Another tip is to say your dialogue out loud. Give your characters silly little voices that you do for them and accents, whatever, to be able to differentiate how they feel out loud. Like if you think about how audiobooks are narrated, that's an actor who is going through and reading all of it. It's one person. Most of the time it's one person who makes all of the characters feel very different. But if you read the same book with your eyes, not with your ears, through the talent of an audiobook narrator, you're still going to get that experience of having different people talking. You can hear it. You can see how the language changes. You can see who uses more commas, like who pauses in the middle of their sentence more often, who uses like super often. Like they don't even realize that they're using like so often. Like they just really like speak their minds as fast as it comes out, and sometimes like, right, that sounds different. And who holds back, who stops, who cuts themselves off, who cuts other people off, who interrupts. There are so many different ways to have your characters sound different while still being written grammatically correct, right? Like you can still write dialogue with grammar rules, but you can put personality into it. Read your dialogue out loud. Think about how people around you talk. Assign a friend of yours that you're really close with to a character. How would your friends say what I'm trying to get this character to say? Write that down. Get real people. Go to a coffee shop or like a restaurant, somewhere that you can sit down and eavesdrop on people and listen to how people's conversations are. There are so many different ways people talk in the world, and you don't need to have all of your characters sound the same because that's how you talk. I did the same thing forever. Forever. And doing some playwriting actually made it easier because you have to have all of your characters sound different, because everything that makes a character something in a play is their lines. That's all an actor has to go off of. Lines and stage directions. There is no this is how they're feeling, because that's not what it's for. So giving the energy towards how the language is used, how the words on the page will translate to coming out of your mouth or out of the character's mouth makes such a big difference. Such a big difference. You can have a whole page of dialogue going back and forth and know which character is speaking and be able to follow that if your characters all have their own individual structures and ways of speaking. Going along with that, I think your characters all need a little bit more shaping. All of your characters have a lot in common in a way that makes it seem like they are not different people. So like, for example, Anne, your main character, and Jazz, her cousin, they are like the same character, almost exactly. Like, they've got so much in common. The way that they speak is the same. The way that they react to things is very similar. I fully get that like really close cousins can act like siblings, but siblings don't act exactly like each other. Even twins aren't exactly the same. Every person is their own individual person, and you need to find the things that separate them. And why is there two people? Why do you have two people if they're going to have the same like mindset around things? What do they add? What are their goals? What are the differences in their goals? How do they work towards their goals? What are the things that separate them? And then along with that, some of your side characters that aren't like necessarily super close to your main character, like her mom and her grandma and Gabriel's mom, they're all very motherly, but that's like their only thing. They're only moms. What were their passions in life before they had kids? Give all of your characters a backstory so that there are things that will influence them. And it doesn't have to be the full thing, but having more than one aspect of what makes them who they are will make them feel more fleshed out. And the more fleshed out that your characters are, the more real your story is, the more immersed your readers can get into the story, and the more that they can experience. Instead of being like, oh, whose mom is this? Who are we talking to? Or is this the main character or the cousin? Who did that? Who did that? I don't remember who did that. So like, the things that I've taken away are Anne and Jazz, very similar characters. Very similar characters. All of the mother figures, basically the same. They just have different families to go to. They're all the same. Rosie is just adults are stupid and I'm smarter than them. I know what's going on. I'm a really smart kid. Gabriel, the love interest, he's very unique. I will give you that. I don't know if it's a great thing that he's unique. He seems very like 100% all of his feelings, fully committed, 100% major overreactions to situations in a way that like I have no way to justify how he reacted to that. Even with his backstory, like his tragic history that I am not going to divulge in case other folks want to read. It doesn't seem like that emotional history leads to this kind of reaction to things, especially with what you know about the rest of his household, which is admittedly not very much. But given that not very much, it doesn't seem like a lot of his feelings are fully fleshed out, but he goes 100% committed into them. And then he also has some very unclear and at times unrealistic professions of love. And that could be I haven't been a teenager in a while now, which is a really weird thing to say, but like, I don't know. It just seems, I've read a lot of YA romances, and it seems like a lot of the things that he says in that aspect of things don't connect. But his other feelings also didn't seem like they connected to me. So it could just be that kind of experience. I don't know. But having more time spent with each of those characters gives you more to work with, more to have their motivations come through, more to have their dialogue feel like they're the one speaking, more to just go off of, more to like be able to give justification for actions, and more to make sure that things are fitting in with the like stimulus that they're getting and their past history. You have more to go off of, because Gabriel's past history is like, there's a thing. right? We know that there's a thing. But is it a big enough thing for him to have the reactions that he has? Or is there more to that thing that we don't know about? I don't know. Do you know? Because if you don't know, then that's something that you can think about. How do backgrounds really affect characters? And how can you show how those backgrounds are affecting the characters in their actions, their motives, their emotional responses to things, and their dialogue? The stakes that happen in this story feel kind of arbitrary. I think that comes from the fact that Anne doesn't really have anything going on. Anne doesn't have any struggles or trials or tribulations that are that important. She kind of just gets upset by things not going the way that she wants them to go, which is arbitrary. We don't know why she wants them to go that way. We just know that she's upset that they didn't. There's so much more potential to make that a stronger, more important stake. Having things go in a direction that makes things harder for her and have her just be upset that things are more difficult does not make her a very relatable character. It doesn't make us root for her to overcome her struggles, because it doesn't really seem like a struggle. It seems like you're just feeling entitled. You just feel like you should have it easy because you've had it easy. And that's not super interesting. That doesn't relate to a lot of other readers' experiences of things. Everybody has things go in a direction that isn't how they want them to. It's actually more of an anomaly for things to go how you want them to go and things to be easy. That's super uncommon. So having that be the main conflict for a lot of these situations just isn't that engaging. There are a lot of ways to make personal, individual stakes feel very high. It just has to be something that is able to be related to by your readers, by other people other than this one character. It has to be something that isn't like, oh yeah, that would be nice, right? It has to be something that is worth working for. You can't really work for things to go the way that you want them to. You have to work for overcoming the situation that has been presented to you. And those are very similar, but also two very different things. And overall, the writing in the book needs some more work. It needs a lot more attention paid to it. In both English and Spanish, there's a lot of grammatical things that do make a difference. It could be that I had a ebook copy, so perhaps some of the accents in the Spanish words did not show up. I don't speak fluent Spanish. I'm doing Spanish on Duolingo. I don't know fluent Spanish, but I know enough Spanish to know that not having an accent or an ñ above a letter can make a big difference as to what the word means. And that's something that somebody who speaks the language fluently would know. They would know, like, hey, that's not a word you want to use there, because that doesn't mean what you think it means to most Spanish speakers. That's not the word that we use for that. You just don't know until you know somebody who does know. I found out recently what papaya means in Cuban Spanish. It's not a fruit, actually. You gotta let people who know what they're talking about talk about what they're talking about. The same thing kind of happens with the English, is like you get these phrases that are just not done right. And you have to really think about what their meaning is and how it was intended in the situation and like what the purpose behind it is. And yes, you can read past it. I did. But if you're gonna write in a language that isn't your first language or isn't a native language, but you feel really confident in it and market it to somebody who is a native speaker of that language, then having the knowledge and the confidence in yourself to know that you don't speak that language the way that a native speaker would speak the language, and taking that to somebody who is a native speaker and giving them the opportunity to proofread it and say, this is a statement that's going to take native speaking readers out of the book. This isn't something that we say. And giving that the opportunity to take the criticism and grow from it is definitely something that's gonna help in the grand scheme of things. And just in general, I think having a proofreader is gonna make things a lot easier to go through and to have people really enjoy reading. Along with all of those improvements that I gave, what can writers learn? A lot of that I said was addressed to the author, who I do not think will watch this video. And that's okay. If any of this resonates with other writers out there, there's still a lot that you can learn. There's always something you can learn from having read something that's been written about writing. You can learn what you like, you can learn what you don't like, you can learn what makes you feel more engaged with a story and what doesn't. And that's great. Everything that you've ever read is leading you to knowing something about writing. You just have to be able to digest it and process it and put it back out. A lot of the things that I think could be improved would be improved with just having an additional set of eyes, a higher qualified set of eyes on the writing before sending it out. Taking that feedback, whatever feedback you get from a higher qualified set of eyes, and attributing it and putting in the work to make things better for their feedback. Not letting your personal ego, like, this is my craft, this is what I do, get in the way of being able to stretch and grow and reach higher places. Taking some feedback from somebody who is qualified to give it on character, voice, setting, time passing, chemistry, grammar, everything. Any of the aspects of this book, taking some of the criticism from somebody who is qualified to give it and using it to make it stronger. There's a lot of clay here and not a lot of shaping. Like, if you want a vase, you need to like make it. You need to put it on the wheel and turn, right? This is just clay. There's so much potential, but you haven't even started. You've gotta shape it. And having somebody who knows how to make a vase show you how to make a vase out of your clay is worth doing. Don't have them make the vase for you. They're not going to make the vase for you, but if you take what they say, get the feedback on like, hey, you need to hold your hand like this, you might have a vase. You might have a really sloppy vase, but you're going to have more of a vase than you would have of a mound of clay, right? There's also the potential that this book could be re-released, because I'm pretty sure it is a self-published book, and you can re-release a self-published book and make it better than it is the first time you released it. And that might be worth it if you want to take the time to actually really establish this book as being something, making it into a vase. It might be worth it. And I'm not saying that every single piece of negative feedback or criticism or anything is something that you should take into consideration, but if it is presented in a way that is genuinely like, hey, you need to take a look at this because it can be better, it can be stronger, then that's something you may want to consider. And the last thing that I will say, I've said it already, say your dialogue out loud. I cannot stress that enough. Say your dialogue out loud. It is so much better when you say your dialogue out loud. I'm speaking first-hand experience. Say your dialogue out loud. That is all for today. I'm sorry that this was like so much longer than normal. I just had so much, I really wanted to say it nicely. I didn't want to, there's some authors that have like 100,000 reviews on their books, and I don't care what they think because they're not going to watch my videos, but I do care about smaller writers, and I do not want to hurt anybody's feelings when they're doing something that they feel passionate about. But on that note, if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. It'll really help me out. If you or someone you know has an independently published book that you think did a really great job, let me know. I would be happy to read more. I'm always happy to take book recommendations in any shape or form. I can't always promise when I will get to them for reviews because that's just sort of life, but I will do them at some point. If you don't want to miss any of my videos, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell next to it. I put out one video a week alternating between writing topics and book reviews like this one, so if you don't want to miss out, hit that subscribe button and I will see you guys in the next one.